Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen Malzone. I am the Community Manager for the CA API Management Community. Welcome to today's community webcast titled Exploring Hybrid API Management. Dana Crane, who is the Senior Product Manager for API Management SaaS Portal, will be presenting today. If you have any questions during his presentation, you can ask it in the Q&A window, and we'll do our best to address those questions as they come in while Dana is presenting. But we will also hold some time at the end of his presentation today to do live Q&A over the phone, where you can unmute your line and ask a question to Dana over the phone. Everyone is on mute right now, but we'll let you know how to unmute your line when we get to that point later in the presentation. All right, so I'm going to pass it off to Dana. Thanks for doing this today, Dana. We're excited to learn more about this.
No problem, Kirsten. Thanks very much for the intro. Point of all of these initiatives to bring in these third parties and extend that perimeter. To get that done in the old days, when you just had a couple of partners you were dealing with, or maybe one cloud service, you might have had one person who coordinated that, maybe sent an update via email to the developers and coordinated with your API owners, your product managers who are building out those APIs. Those were the good old simple old days. That's no longer the case. What we see today is there's a large explosion in the number of APIs and the number of connecting points or developers who are building against them. You can no longer get away with it in simple ways like that. Now, for the past few years, we've seen an explosion of what we've seen called API portals or developer portals, a single point of communication and coordination that allows all stakeholders to have a share in what's happening behind the scenes. So here an API owner can come in, update their API, post that update, immediately notify all of their customers, all of those developers who are building against it, who can quickly rev what's going on, make sure that you're up to date with your connectivity to your third-party cloud service, or mobile applications need to be revved as well to take advantage of that new functionality. All of it can be coordinated from a single point, and it really takes away the pain of maintaining and managing a large API management initiative. Now, in the past, we've had a couple of models. So first of all, we started over here on the right with the on-premise portal. The on-premise portal offered the ability to coordinate that whole API initiative, and afforded quite a few benefits, security and scalability not being the least of those benefits. But being an on-premise deployment, it also had some drawbacks. Number one that we always saw out there was a longer time to implement. It was typically 6 to 9 months before anybody got to a stage one where they would roll out that portal and put it into play, being able to accept third-party registrations and starting to coordinate amongst their different constituents. That's quite a while because the IT team typically needs to get involved. There needs to be security reviews. There needs to be quite a lot of heavy lifting in order to get that into place. And as a result, you have quite a higher total cost of ownership at the end of the day, trying to coordinate all those moving pieces and be able to manage those all by yourself. What we did about a year ago was introduce a new model, our SaaS model, which offered a counterpoint to that on-premise portal, if you will. This is where the time to market becomes extremely condensed because now all you need to do is bring your APIs. The entire infrastructure is already deployed and ready and waiting for you just to load it up with your APIs so you can hit the ground running. But that also brings challenges with it. As we've seen with some of the customers who have moved to our SaaS portal, the more successful they are, the increase in cost because they're always paying for that bandwidth. Before on-premise, when you could manage your own bandwidth, you could scale your own instances, that cost was pushed back onto your operations team, basically. Here, it's directly coming off your bottom line. So the more successful you are, the more APIs you introduce, the more traffic you drive, the more it's going to cost you. And Also integrating to that back end. On-premise, when you have that gateway very close to your back end, when you've deployed it in your DMZ and you can make a secure connection to your back end, it makes it very simple and easy to integrate and coordinate with all of your back end pieces that need to be updated. From the cloud, it becomes a little bit trickier. Now you have to proxy a secure connection back into your enterprise in order to be able to coordinate with those back-end systems. Certainly not impossible, but a little bit trickier, and many of our customers not feeling as comfortable as they might with an on-premise deployment up here in the cloud. So as a result, we are now introducing our hybrid version. And our hybrid version, called the CA API Management SaaS Portal, allows you to take that gateway and deploy it on-premise. Now, this is really a separation of concerns here. What you have in the cloud now is the portal itself, and that's your design time. That's where your developers will go to discover what APIs are available, how do I work with them, what's the latest rev, what's the newest things that are coming out. This is your point of communication and your point of focus for everything around the build for your APIs. But your runtime, where the rubber really hits the road, and this is the business critical aspect, is the gateway. The gateway is going to be accepting all of those calls to your back end. So it is the gate between your applications and your back-end APIs. And it's there where you're going to put in your policies, you're going to put in your security, you're going to make sure that the calling application is valid before you pass it to that back end. So now you have that control within your enterprise over what gets access to the back end. You've got greater security, greater scalability, and because that gateway is on-premise, now you have better integration to your back-end services and your back-end applications as well. So what we've done here with the hybrid is sort of balanced out that total cost of ownership versus time to implement and ease of integration to that back end. So with the hybrid, we've sort of covered off the best of both worlds here. How does it work? Well, as I mentioned, the SaaS portal is still running up in Amazon. That's where we deploy it. That is a multi-tenanted SaaS application, which is where you would become a tenant. And the gateway is hosted and maintained and upgraded and patched by you. So you have complete control over the hybrid gateway, but the SaaS portal in this instance is shared, and it's managed by CA. So we would upgrade, maintain, and push that forward independent of what you do with that hybrid gateway on-premise, which you control. Number one thing with a hybrid gateway that we wanted to make sure was that we weren't forcing you to punch holes in your firewall to make that communication between the SaaS portal and the hybrid gateway work. So what we've done in this model is have the hybrid gateway reach out to the SaaS portal and ask what's new. If you created some new plans or created some new APIs, those can all be pulled down to the gateway. That means you only need to open outbound ports from your enterprise to the cloud. In this case, ports 9447, 9446, 9448, in order to get done the tasks that need to get done. So a scheduled sync task will be initiated, typically every 10 minutes or so, and it'll reach up to find out what's new. You've got an SSO port there as well if you're doing SSO, which is accommodated by the SaaS portal. It allows you to very quickly bring on all of your existing developers and bring them into the fold and make them available to the SaaS portal so they can log in and start working with your APIs right away. So that's minimizing that time to market. And you've also got the ability to enroll, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Just want to talk about core support for a second. So with core support, what we're trying to do here is enable those internal deployment initiatives. So if you're trying to enable your internal developers, what we've provided for you out of the box is core support, whereby you can use the portal to test out your APIs. Those calls will all be handled by the browser. So again, there's no need to punch a hole in your firewall to get one of those internal API management initiatives off the ground. Your developers can make seamless calls from the portal to your internal APIs using their browser and its built-in core support. I talked a little bit about enrollment. And one of the things we're trying to do here is cut down time to market. And by doing that, through an automated enrollment process, what we've essentially done is said, if you've got a gateway that exists today, or if you just stand up a gateway tomorrow, what you're able to do very, very quickly is just log into the portal, get a token, plug that into the UI element in step number 2 here on your gateway, click the OK button, and 2 minutes later, we've downloaded all of the different components that will securely integrate your gateway to that AWS-based portal. So there's no fiddly bits, there's no installs, there's no checks, there's no setting up a security or exchange of certificates that you have to do manually. That's all done behind the scenes for you. And that secure relationship is all established for you within about 2 minutes, and you're up and running. So quick, smooth, painless, easy transition to becoming API management enabled for your enterprise. And then finally, one of the other things you want to be able to understand is, how is this tracking? So there is a syncing mechanism that happens between the gateway and the portal. The gateway is always going to reach up and pull down whatever is new or newly created on the portal. And that will be things like APIs, things like applications, which represent API keys, and things like account plans that impose quotas and rate limits. Your gateway needs to be aware of all of these things in order to be able to provide proper access to your back-end APIs. All of those APIs, applications, and account plans start up on the portal and need to be conveyed down to the gateway. In some cases, that synchronization process may have gotten out of whack. There might have been some sort of internet interruption, or there may be some corruption within the database, or something may have happened along the way. What we want to be able to do is help you understand where that lies. So there's a proxy page within the portal to help you understand how that sync is progressing. And that sync, again, will be updated default every 2 to 10 minutes, depending on how you set that sync. And that will allow you to understand what your snapshot at this point in time is like. Hopefully we see a green check mark all over the place, which means that your, as in the bottom case, your account plans are in sync. Your portal shows 5, your proxy shows 5, so everything is fine. Where it's not out of sync, you can always wait 2 minutes or automatically refresh it yourself or manually refresh it yourself in order to make sure that those out of sync keys or maybe out of sync APIs become in sync right away. We've also incorporated a number of other features into this release. So enabling hybrid was the key driver here, but with that key driver, we've also created quite a bit more value for you as well. One of the key things I want to talk about is analytics. So customers are always interested in understanding what's going on behind the scenes. In our original release of our Saas portal, we provided operational reporting. And operational reporting is terrific if you want to troubleshoot. So what just happened with my API? How is my application performing with that last call? That latency felt a bit long. What was that latency like? Let's go and look at that. So those kinds of troubleshooting, operational kind of reporting was built into the system from day one. What we've done now is we've extended that into more of the business reporting realm. And the first thing we've looked at is ad hoc reporting. So the first comment we got back was, this is terrific, you give me good information about what's happening right now, but what about other elements in my initiative? Can I look at those? And what we've done is we've given you the ability to create any ad hoc report you want, even reports on things that don't even make sense. But you've got, the key here is that any element trapped by the gateway can now be reported on. You can go ahead and plot what, hits, errors, APIs, latencies, whatever you want, and you can plot those by some value. It could be a time value, it could be a portal entity like account plan value, any way you want. You can go ahead and create an ad hoc report on the fly to see what's going on. Once you've created that report, you may think about saving it as a dashboard. That allows you to track that stat over time and see how it evolves and be able to troubleshoot that over time as well. This also gives your management team a way of looking at that key performance indicators that are relevant to them, and at a glance being able to see on that dashboard how those things are progressing. And then finally, once you've plumbed the depths of that kind of ad hoc reporting and dashboarding, what we allow you to do is extend that solution through predictive analytics by applying things like correlation and other advanced functions to be able to understand where your business and where your API management initiative is going. So what does that look like in reality? So in reality, what we've done is we've tied up with a partner of ours called Good Data, and Good Data is providing this dashboarding, ad hoc reporting, and predictive analytics capability for us. So when you log into the portal, what you'll see is a bunch of out-of-the-box canned reports. That's up on the top line. So we give you a number of dashboards that are of interest to most people, and that's provided for you out of the box so that you can track and understand most of those key performance indicators that most people want to track against. And of course, you've got the ability to change parameters, drill in on APIs or applications, or drill on time variables, or specify your own time period, whatever you need to do to understand what's going on with it. Additionally, you can export any of those dashboard reports. You can save them as PDFs or as an image or as Excel files or as CSVs if you want to export these to your own data analysis tool as well. That's perfectly possible. Or you could just schedule these and have them print off or email them to your boss or whatever it happens to be. But the key functionality here, again, is ad hoc reporting. So clicking that pencil icon in the top right corner will take you to an interface that allows you to plot the what's by the how's and be able to create any report. And it will appear just like this report you see here. You can go ahead and save it as a dashboard, and it has the exact same capabilities, being able to export or schedule that for printing later or sending via email to your boss. So key functionality here, providing you with the ability to do business reporting, not just troubleshooting. Another key capability we've brought into the product this time around is API custom fields. Now, for those who may be familiar with our on-premise product, our on-premise portal has custom fields available for API keys and custom fields available for registration as well. We haven't gotten to those yet with our SaaS portal or our hybrid portal. What we are focusing on this time around is API custom fields. That allows you to create any kind of ad hoc metadata you want around your APIs and then use that ad hoc metadata in policy to accomplish some task. This is really where our product shines, the ability to create an ad hoc solution to a business problem through the flexibility of our policy engine while leveraging that metadata up on the portal. And this allows you to solve these problems yourselves without engaging professional support. Additionally, because you're solving this through policy and not actually building it into the API or having PS come and create a brittle solution that will break when it upgrades or your business processes change, you're able to change those policies over time to adapt to your business needs. So what does that look like in reality? So within the product, we've given you the ability to create a custom field, and you can see a few of them over here on the left. Any ad hoc metadata you want can be created here. You can then apply that selectively to all of your APIs or selectively one API or a couple of APIs. It depends on you. When you publish out your API, there's a custom field section. You can leave it blank or you can fill it in. For example, here I have something called an API plan. Maybe it's a way of routing to environments. So I can say maybe this API is a beta API and I want to beta test it. So I don't want to route it to the production instance of my API. I actually want to route it to a sandbox instance. I want some developers to give me some feedback to understand whether this is ready to go first. So I go ahead and use a plan or maybe an environment variable, and I set it to non-prod, or maybe I set it to dev, or maybe I set it to sandbox or some other value that I want to trap up on the, or I want to create up on the portal, but I want to trap that down in policy. So we're going to take that custom field variable, we're going to take that, maybe it's called sandbox, and we're going to trap that, we're going to evaluate that as a context variable in policy. If I see it come down as sandbox, I'm going to route to my non-prod backend, and maybe I have another value called production already loaded in there so that when I pass through my beta and I'm ready to go into production, I can then go ahead and switch that field over to production. I can then trap that in policy. When I see production, I'll actually route to the production backend. So a very simple way to solve a problem of introducing a beta API through policy using these custom fields. But that's just scratching the surface. You have complete control over this, and you can create whatever kind of business logic makes sense to solve the problems you may have. Another key factor that we've introduced, Swagger. So one of the key things I've always wanted to do with my portals is be able to be API agnostic. It shouldn't really matter what API description type or API description file you standardized on for your API management initiative. Be that Waddle, be that Swagger, be that Blueprint, be that Ramble files. It really doesn't matter how you want to describe what your API is doing. You should have a way of exposing that within the portal and making it available for your developers in an interactive way so that they can get the best benefit out of your API. So what we've done this time around is expanded out and included our Swagger 2.0 support. So this is native support for Swagger 2.0. If you've adopted Swagger as your file description standard, you can just bring those in natively. We'll render those in our API Explorer and expose some of the key functionality that's made Swagger very, very popular. Things like responses, things like model schemas, being able to click on that model and be able to load it into a post body automatically and then go ahead and just edit a few parameters and submit that. It makes it very quick and easy for a developer to understand how best to work with your APIs. Another key thing that we've produced here as well is our portal APIs. So this time around what we've done is everything is backed by an API. Specifically they're OAuth APIs, and they're all made available to you as customers. So in our first iteration, they're very, very simple CRUD APIs, so being able to create, read, update, or delete through any of these APIs, any of the typical entities you would find on the portal. APIs, apps, orgs, users, account plans, custom fields, all of that's all covered off. So you're able to go ahead and programmatically interact with your portal to provide that CRUD functionality for any of those portal entities. But you're also able to do the migration as well via these APIs. In other words, do a GET call on all of your APIs that are in your non-prod portal, being able to single out one or two of them, being able to grab those and post those off to your production instance when they're ready to go, for example, or being able to migrate your users over if that's what you want to do, or just take your account plans and make those available on your production instance as well. So being able to test all that out on your non-prod and then migrate them over to your production instance via those portal APIs. And then finally, SSO support. I mentioned this earlier, but this is one of those key onboarding things that helps us decrease time to market. Many of you already have some sort of a focal point for developer resources within your enterprise. What we're talking about here is just adding a new one, our developer portal, to that list of resources for your developers. When they click on the link within that developer resource site, we'll automatically call back to your SSO system, evaluate your SAML token. This is all SAML based. You need an SSO system that supports SAML in order to do this. We'll evaluate that SAML token and log you into the portal. So a very simple setup screen under settings in our portal to be able to point at your SSO system and then do the mapping between your SAML token and the roles that portal login person is expected to have, so we can log them in appropriately either as a developer or as an administrator, depending on where they belong in the system. And I think that's it for now. So I will open it up to questions, or if you've got some Q&A, please type it in. I'll send it back to Kirsten.
Great, thanks, Dana. So yeah, we'll open it up for Q&A now. I don't see any questions in the chat or the Q&A window. If you'd like to unmute your line and ask a question, you can do so by hitting #6 or *6, or I can unmute your line for you if you press the phone with a question mark icon. I'm going to put up a poll right now. So if you can, please take the poll. It's a quick poll to just rate today's webcast. So I'm going to open that right now. And let me just check on the Q&A. Yeah, I don't see anything right now. Does anyone have a question over the phone? Just hit #6 or *6 to unmute your line. In the meantime, I'm going to put up this slide about our product surveys that are going on right now. There's a product survey open right now for API Gateway. If you are also a customer of that product, there's a lot of other products that have open surveys right now as well. If you go to ca.com/product feedback, you can see all of the open surveys. Is it possible that we have no questions? Dana covered everything that we could possibly go over on. I don't see any questions. One just popped up. Let me go ahead and unmute the line. Peter, are you there? Or Ian? Ian, are you there?
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Sorry, just on mute.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, it was really around the, Dana referred to a non-production or a staging portal. And I'm just wondering if this is a completely separate instance, or is it sort of a staging area within the portal where it can be skinned and built, etc., before it moves into production?
So typically you can create just about anything within the portal and set it to private. That allows you to sort of stage it beforehand and play with it and understand what's going on. But many of our customers or clients prefer to have a completely separate non-production portal. So what I'm talking about here is something that is a completely different deployment. So this would be attached to a completely separate, different set of gateways that would be proxying a set of your non-production APIs. So you'd be able to do all of your API management work and test out those APIs in a completely isolated non-production instance that's separate from your production instance, and then be able to migrate those APIs from one instance to the next using those portal APIs.
Great. All right. Thanks, Dana. Just one more question. You referred to on-premise gateways, hybrid gateways. I think you also used the term synchronizing with the portal, almost polling the portal. What, in sort of high-level terms, what's the mechanism that makes the gateways poll the portal for synchronization? Is this something customers have to do to build in policy, or is this almost sort of an automated process that they just check a box and it happens?
Yeah, so part of that whole enrollment scheme, when you connect the gateway to the portal, it will set this up. So this is based on a new piece of functionality that was introduced in Gateway 9.0. So any kind of a hybrid deployment has to start from Gateway 9.0. We don't support anything earlier than that. And what's included there is something called a task scheduler. So when you enroll your gateway with the portal, we'll automatically set up that scheduler for you. And I believe, depending on the element that we're talking about syncing here, anywhere from 2 to 10 minutes is your refresh rate. That means that that task scheduler is available to you because you have complete 100% control over that gateway. You can go and tune that. So, for example, if you're just setting up your portal and getting started, you might want to dial down that polling to say, every 30 seconds, so you don't have to wait for that refresh rate. But once you've got sort of a steady state and you have all your APIs published and you have all your users on board and assigned to your account plans, there's no need to poll quite so frequently. So maybe you could dial that up to every 10 minutes or so. And this will allow you to pull down all those new applications that your developers are creating, instantiate those keys on your gateway to make sure that they're available when the application does call that back in. So you have complete control over it, but we're going to set it up for you at enrollment time.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Dana. Appreciate that.
All right. Does anyone else have a question at this time? Again, you can ask in the Q&A window or by clicking the icon with the question mark so that I can unmute your line. This webcast today was recorded. We will post the slides and the video replay to the API management community later today. All right, if there are no other questions at this time, we'll go ahead and close the webcast. I want to thank Dana for presenting today. And if you think of any other questions, you can add them as a comment to the video replay or the slides in the API management community, and Dana will address those as soon as possible. All right. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.